A very good day to you and welcome to the Game Changer program proudly brought to you by the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. The Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum is celebrating their 25th anniversary today, and we're so excited as heart and soul that they've chosen us as their partners to celebrate this very important day and milestone. Today we're going to be unpacking the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commission Act, and we'll be asking the key question: how will citizens benefit from this mechanism? I'm sure some of you have heard about it, but today we have experts in the room who are going to be talking about this as they celebrate their 25th anniversary. To join me for this conversation, I have with me Nyasha Machirori, who is the projects lawyer at the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. I also have with me Maxine Chisweto, who is a lawyer at Veritas. And lastly, I have Ishiane Suchirisa, who is the senior projects lawyer at the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. Ladies, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Unique.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, Maxine. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. So I'll start off with Ishianesu. Let's talk a little bit about the purpose of why we're having this conversation and how best we can actually conscientize people about the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commission.
Thank you, Unique, for your question. Please allow me to go a little bit backwards. I would like to give probably an overview of what Human Rights NGO Forum does. As you correctly pointed out, that we commemorating our 25th anniversary. The forum has been in existence since 1998 January. So indeed, this is our 25th year of existence. What does the forum do? We are a human rights-based NGO, which is focused on raising awareness on human rights issues. We also do a lot of litigation around human rights work, around the Constitution, and also the rule of law in Zimbabwe. So why this session is important to us is we are basically doing what we have been said to do, which is to take the law to the people. It's another thing to have a good piece of legislation, but it's very important for that piece of legislation to be taken to the people. You will understand that last year around October, this piece of legislation was enacted into law. But now the big question is, do people know about it? Yeah. So it's important for us to come in, step forward, take the piece of the law to the people so that we empower people to use the law to protect themselves. So what basically we are doing today is we want people to know about this very important piece of law so that they can protect themselves when need arise against probably violations perpetrated against them by members of the security forces. So an overview of this law is that it provides a mechanism of protection. Should there be any violations of human rights, should there be anyone, probably let me come closer to home. Now there is this mechanism, but do people know how to complain? Do people know how to file complaints? This is why we're trying to fill the gap between the law and the people. We're trying to close the gap of ignorance. This is basically why we are here today with you, Unique. Thank you for having us.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about what necessitated the Zimbabwe Complaints Commission Act. I mean, what is the significance of this act in terms of, upcoming elections as we draw closer to the Zimbabwe 2023 elections?
Thank you. So this piece of law would always be important. Never mind the elections, it will live its life beyond the election. But importantly, within a scope of election where we see increased instances of violence, especially perpetrated by security agents, this will provide a protection mechanism. Going back a little bit, when you look at the Constitution, section 210, provides for the enactment or setting up of a mechanism where people would independently and effectively complain against security agents. When we're talking of security agents, we're talking of the police, we're talking of members of ZNA, we're talking of prison officials. So what happens, or how does the law work? It will be unfolded as we go into the conversation. But now, this is a situation where a member of the public feels violated or gets maybe beaten, say by the police. They can go to this complaints mechanism and report that particular case. So this is a mechanism with a particular focus on security agents, with a particular focus on violations perpetrated against members of the public by security agents. I mean, all other things do still exist. We still have the police. When maybe you feel somebody has done something wrong against you, you can still report to the police. But this is a specific focus on those violations done by security members against members of the public. So maybe if I could just emphasize, sometime in 2016, Veritas, here represented by Maxine, did a constitutional application in the Constitutional Court. We call that public interest litigation, where you seek to enforce the constitutional provisions, among other things, where you seek to protect the greater good of the public. So they went to court and say that we have seen the provision of the Constitution, which is Section 210, which government has taken long to fulfill. So they went to court trying to compel government to enact this piece of law. Successfully, they did so in 2016. A positive judgment came out, which judgment then compelled government to enact a piece of law we are talking about today.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ishianesu. Now, Nyasha, you've been quiet for too long. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously Ishianesu has sort of taken us through why this Complaints Commission Act is very important. But let's talk about some of the challenges that the citizens have been facing in making reports against security forces.
Thank you, Unique. The question is really a power dynamics question, because the citizens feel that they're disadvantaged.
Right.
So when a citizen is assaulted by a police officer, the next place that that person has to report to is at a police station. And chances are they're not going to get the full cooperation of that office.
Yes.
So the challenges that citizens have been having, they keep reaching out when we go to outreaches and they say, Tibatsire, tino mangarase, kana mapurisa atirova, kana masoja, auya muma communities edu atikanganisira, kana ma prison officers atikanganisira. Their biggest challenge is that they do not get reception, a good reception at the police station, so that they can file their reports, so that they can make their complaints. They keep getting a cold shoulder, they keep being referred to different offices, and they never do see the finality of their report.
I see. Well, after the short break, we'll continue this conversation as we unpack the Independent Complaints Commission Act. Remember, the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum is celebrating 25 years. Such a huge milestone. We'll be right back.
The 4th International Renewable Energy Conference and Expo, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Power Development of Zimbabwe, will be held under the theme Managing the Future, Clean Energy Possibilities, from the 21st to the 24th of March 2023.
This conference is timely. Renewable energy is no longer a matter of choice, but of necessity. It is important that we remain alive to work concertedly towards the realization of SDG 7.
So save the date. The conference will take place at the Elephant Hills Hotel in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. For more information or to register, go on events at alphamedia.co.zw or renewable.amh.co.zw. Managing the future. Clean energy is possible.
Hello and welcome back to the Game Changer program. And today our Game Changers are proudly brought to you by the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum. As of course, we're talking about the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commission Act. Interestingly enough, just before the break, we're talking about why this Complaints Commission Act is very important. And we've realized that, a lot of citizens are sometimes, getting, human rights abuses from security forces, but they don't really know where to go. And when they do go sometimes to the police station, it becomes a serious challenge because they are not getting the responses that they actually need. So right now we're going to be unpacking this Complaints Commission Act. And why it's important to have these conversations is for you, the general audience and the public, to know what your rights are. Maxine, I want you to bring you into this conversation as we unpack the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commission Act. Can you unpack this act for us? And let's talk about who this commission or what it will comprise of, and why its independence plays a key role, and who appoints them. And let's talk about the members that will be part of this commission.
Right. Thank you for that. So that's quite a mouthful to go through, but I'll try my best to keep it short. So as Anisu had spoken about before, this is coming about because the Act gives effect to Section 210 of the Constitution, basically, which says that there should be an Act of Parliament that provides an effective and independent mechanism for receiving and investigating complaints of members of the public on misconduct of security services. So just a quick rundown on who actually is in the commission. This is also something that is in the conversation right now, because as much as the Act has come into force, the commission has not yet been established. So the commission members, they're supposed to be a chairperson, who is a judge or a person who can be qualified as a judge. And then there are 4 other commissioners on the commission who are to be appointed by the president. And these are a lawyer, a medical practitioner, a psychologist, and someone who has experience in the security services. Sorry, just to go back, what was the rest of your question?
I think you've covered, yeah. I think you've covered most of the part, but let's talk about, obviously you're talking about, we don't have, representatives who have actually been appointed to be part of this commission as of yet. But what is the process like, and how does the commission handle complaints when, of course, it starts functioning?
Right. So when it actually starts functioning, it's not a difficult process at all. It follows the process that any commission currently functions under. And one of the best ways that you as a citizen, or even myself as a citizen, is to fill in a form that you find at the commission, or to write to the commission with your complaint, and then they take it from there. So once they receive your complaint, they are supposed to start an investigation within 7 days. So they notify you that we have now received your complaint, and now we're starting the investigation process. So that happens within 7 days. Then when they've reached 21 days and they still haven't come with a resolution or recommendation, at 21 days, they're supposed to also further give you a progress report of what's going on. And then, so the Act loosely says that they have to take at least 60 days. So everything must be resolved in about 60 days, depending on how you read. There's a little bit of ambiguity there, but between 7 to 60 days, your matter should be resolved. And once they resolve your matter, they will give a recommendation as to what should happen. This can be in terms of compensation. It can also be in terms of whether the officer who's at fault is going to be dismissed, if there are any other measures that should be taken.
Thanks so much, Maxine, for that. But we all know that sometimes, we have all these commissions that are being created and, the policies or whatever initiatives can be, can look perfect on paper. But what is to happen if a security officer actually refuses to comply with the commission's order? What happens to them?
Right. So Section 18 of the Act says that any officer who refuses to comply shall be guilty of an offense or fine not exceeding level 14. So at least on our side, that puts some sort of a security measure that, if you comply, if you refuse to pay the compensation or what have you, then now you're criminally liable, meaning that you too can then be a prisoner if you don't actually comply with the order.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Maxine, for that. And Nyasha, tell me, how active is the commission going to be? And I mean, we're obviously talking about, a security force possibly refusing the commission's order. How enforceable are these orders?
Thank you, Unique. So as Maxine already stated, if one of the officers refuses to comply, he faces a penalty of law. So that makes it something that has weight,
Right.
that gives weight to it. It's something that they can actually enforce.
Mm-hmm.
And the commission can give recommendations, basically. So I'll tell you what. Section 210 put a toll order on everyone because it says they must be enacted an act of parliament that is effective and independent, a mechanism. So this is left to the creativity of the lawmaker. And I must applaud them. They did well because no one said it should be a commission, but they're making an effort, and we will be able to measure the enforceability once this commission hits the ground. But from what is on paper, it appears like it is semi-effective because some of the things can be cured by the penalty of law, and the commission can make recommendations which can then be refused, and really we then just start all over again. But this is a great step forward, and it's something that we can mark as a good thing in the history of our country.
Definitely. And Ishianesu, obviously Maxine told us that we don't have representatives of the commission as of yet. Yes. So when will the act, first of all, become operational, and what needs to be done now to actually get this commission to start operating?
All right. Thank you, Unique. We already have a law in place, but for a law to be effective, it requires the supporting framework, which is in form of the commission itself. Like Maxine gave us a rundown of the individuals that should be appointed to the commission. We also need a secretariat. So for me to say when it will be operational, it's really difficult. I can't speak to the specifics of time, but for the commission to be effective, it means we have to have the individuals being appointed. We need somebody who's a judge, as well as somebody who has past experience with security services. So what now remains is for Parliament. Why? Because this is a commission. We have seen how commissioners are appointed in Zimbabwe, where individuals are ordinarily invited to apply. They are subjected to public interviews, and once a list of names are met, the recommendations are made to the president to come up with the commission. So ideally, in terms of the Parliament standing orders and rules, Parliament should initiate the process of the commissioners being appointed, which is convening of the interviews, the public interviews of whoever feels they are eligible. So once that's done and the interviews are conducted, the names will be forwarded to the president, who then set up the commission, and the commissioners, those that would have been appointed, would take, they will be sworn to oath. Once that, then it remains that The secretariat headed by an executive secretary should be appointed. For the commission to effectively work, there has to be the secretariat which would be doing the technical work or the day-to-day work. So we are actually awaiting the mechanism to be established. So this is what remains outstanding.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, as of course you know, we're still discussing the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commission Act, and we've explained through our experts why this act is so important and why you as the audience need to know about this Complaints Commission Act. I think maybe I'll start off with Maxine. What are your parting shots when it comes to this conversation we were having as we're celebrating 25 years of Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum?
Thank you for that. I think just something I'd like to add on to Anesu's comment. The when is also determined by the fiscal commitment to this commission. So at the present moment, there isn't any fiscal commitment to the commission, and you know, that's one thing we are looking at. Do we wait for when the new budget comes in from the Minister of Finance, or does the president go by the Public Finance Management Act and actually by Section 24 and actually commit funds to this commission right now? So just my parting points would be, I think there has to be more that comes from the executive in terms of commitment to this. We'd definitely be better off as a nation having the Independent Complaints Commission coming in before the election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maxine. Nyasha?
Thank you, Unique. Yes, just as Maxine said, it would be better off if we have this commission up and running before the elections. We have noted the history of elections in this country. We have had moments where security forces do unleash a measure of violence on the public, leaving the public without resort. So we do need a mechanism that will assist the public to be able to air out their grievances concerning security forces. So we do want this commission to be up and running, and it has already begun. There's no need to get tired now. So the urge is on all the stakeholders. Let's keep the momentum. Let's get this thing on the ground so that we can measure its independence and we start to measure its effectiveness.
Independence and effectiveness is key in this whole conversation. Ishiane, so what are your last words?
I think I'm really excited and very looking towards the operationalization of this mechanism. We may not necessarily need to see maybe members of the security forces being punished. It may just work as a deterrent measure. I mean, the moment that you know that you will be penalized for beating people willy-nilly, I mean, it may be good enough. So what I would want to see happening is more and more awareness about the existence of this piece of legislation from a two-folded approach. One, to educate the members of the public about the recourse that's available to them. And secondly, even to give it out to the members of the security forces. Look here, if you do this, there is now a piece of law which will definitely penalize you for that. So perhaps also to clarify that the commission will not work in isolation. We understand there are other mechanisms that we already have in existence. We have the Human Rights Commission, we already have the NPRC, we have the Gender Commission, we also have over and above the police. So this is just to complement and to address a specific problem, but members of the public can still use all other existing mechanisms over and above this forthcoming mechanism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishiane, so for your last parting shots. And of course, you know, I think our experts are really saying that it would be an ideal situation if this Complaints Commission Act came into action before the elections, because we know the history of human rights abuses that start taking place, especially as we draw closer to elections. But remember, this program was proudly brought to you by the Zimbabwe Human Rights NGO Forum as they celebrate 25 years of being in existence and fighting for people's human rights. Today we were discussing about the Zimbabwe Independent Complaints Commissions Act, just to help you, as an individual, wherever you are in the world, to understand a little bit more about this act. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me for this conversation, and we'll see you next time.
The 4th International Renewable Energy Conference and Expo, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Power Development of Zimbabwe, will be held under the theme Managing the Future, Clean Energy Possibilities, from the 21st to the 24th of March 2023.
This conference is timely. Renewable energy is no longer a matter of choice, but of necessity. It is important that we remain alive to work concertedly towards the realization of SDG 7.
So save the date. The conference will take place at the Elephant Hills Hotel in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. For more information or to register, go on events at alphamedia.co.zw or renewable.amh.co.zw. Managing the future. Clean energy is possible.